Welcome to this digital gathering of the Belong Collective. We are very happy that you're with us. The Belong Collective is an inclusive, Jesus-shaped community practicing the way of love for the good of all. You can find more information out about us at thebelongcollective.org. And if you would be interested in supporting us financially, there is a Give tab on our website. You can also connect with us through our Facebook page and our Instagram account. We love when you tag yourselves in our posts. We do have a Belong Collective Facebook group where we share prayer requests and updates. If you are not a part of that group, we would love to add you to that, so feel free to call us, smoke signal, email, whatever is easiest for you, and we will get you connected with that. Thank you so much for joining us.
Light of the world, you step down into darkness. Open my eyes, let me see beauty that made this heart adore you. Hope of a life spent with you. So here I am to worship. Here I am to bow down. Here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. King of all days, oh so highly exalted, glorious in heaven above. Humbly you came to the earth you created, all for love's sake became poor. So here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. And I'll never know how much it costs to see my sin up on that cross. I'll never know how much it costs to see my sin upon that cross. So here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. Here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. It calls me, and it tempts me, and it wants me. Oh, but I'm not giving in. Still it taunts me, still it haunts me, but it leaves me empty in the end. The way is clear and true. In this running with the devil world, I'm gonna walk with you. The road less traveled has its battles. There's no battle, oh, that you won't pull me through. In this running with the devil world, I'm gonna walk with you. There ain't no mountain too high or valley too low. Like a shadow, I'll follow you close wherever you go. I have everything to gain, nothing to lose. In this running with the devil world, I'm gonna walk with you. Oh, there ain't no mountain too high or valley too low. Like a shadow, I'll follow you close wherever you go. I have everything to gain and nothing to lose. 'Cause in this running with the devil world, I'm gonna walk with you. Still it calls me, still it tempts me, and it wants me. Oh, but I'm not giving in.
Sorry I'm late. I've had a day.
Say, Wiz, can you help me out? Thanks, bro.
Arr, is everything all right?
My romantic comedy is a romantic tragedy.
Michelle, I can't live without you.
Man, why do we always come to the movies?
You can learn a lot from a movie.
Well, hello, Belong Collective. Pastor Justin here. I just got done watching It's a Wonderful Life for the closeout of our Christmas at the Movies series. And it's the day after Christmas, so still very much in the Christmas spirit and watching this Christmas movie in that spirit. I didn't have any plans going into the movie because this is one of the unique ones of the movies that I watched and picked for this series that I had never watched front to back. And some of you are going to be right now judging me hard for never watching It's a Wonderful Life front to back. Now, I knew the premise of the story. I had, it's been on in the background when I've been in a room over Christmas with family and stuff, but I don't think I've ever actually sat down and intentionally watched the movie from the start to the finish. And I did that just now. And along the way, I kind of gathered some thoughts and thought I would just share with you some of my thoughts on the movie, the way it connects to our faith. Of all the movies that we've watched through this Christmas at the Movies series, which I hope you've enjoyed, it's been maybe something a little bit different, an opportunity for you to engage Christmas through the movies, which I think for many of us, that's something we naturally do anyway, but then also the opportunity to consider what those movies mean for our faith. So, for example, a movie like Elf, which is one that we looked at during this series, is very different from a movie like It's a Wonderful Life, because It's a Wonderful Life actually has some very spiritual themes in it. The entire movie, spoiler alert, if you've waited, what would it be, like 70 years now to watch it? There is an angel that's part of it, and you kind of get to hear this conversation that God and Joseph and this angel have, and like there's this like scene of heaven that's pretty hilarious at this point to watch from the graphics side of things. You get to kind of watch this scene and see this angel intervene in this individual's life. So anyway, all of it to say, I'm not going to give like a whole rundown and synopsis of the movie, but kind of brief descriptor of the movie, as I assume most of us know, or we can go watch it. I think it was on Amazon for free, so that's a place you can stream it for free if you didn't get a chance to watch it. The main premise of the movie is this individual owes $8,000 to settle the books for the end of the year, and his uncle lost the money, and it's sent him kind of spiraling down into a depression, into a feeling of hopelessness and despair, to the point where he decides he's going to jump off a bridge. God intervenes by sending an angel, and then eventually, and part of it is that he has a life insurance policy, and he realizes he's worth more dead than alive, so he's trying to, even in his death, you can tell he's kind of thinking nobly about leaving his family with enough money, and instead of going bankrupt and potentially even going to jail for the books being wrong at the end of the year for the bank because they lost this $8,000. And so the angel kind of sends him through his life as it would have been if he had never been alive, because he had said he wished he was never born. And you begin to see all the things that would be different about his little town that he's in. And the beginning of the movie, you get to kind of see what his dreams were, which were to get out of this little town and to never, come back, kind of from the standpoint of like be a traveler and see everything else. And you kind of realize throughout the movie that everything he needs is right here. And so anyway, all that to say, he gets sent on this journey to see what life would be like if he had never been born, if he had never had these relationships that he had. And his particular character is someone who's serving others above himself. Even him and his wife have their money to go on their honeymoon, and they end up using that money to serve others, as the bank and loan industry that he's a part of is in a pickle. Ultimately, he gains some perspective through this experience that changes his entire outlook on life, and allows him to be more thankful for what he has, to recognize that like even if things are bad, things are still also pretty good. And it's a pretty heartwarming movie in a lot of ways. And then in the end, he has all these friends who show up to help him in his time of despair, and all the money that he needed to make the bank be, the books be equal at the end of the year. And he had all these friends show up. And so it made me think a lot about some scripture, some thoughts, some things that maybe we might have to learn from this particular movie. So in John 13:34, Jesus says this: "A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another." Now, Jesus says this to the disciples, and he's saying, you've heard all of these commands that you have, that you follow. You see people around you following all these commands, but a new command I give you, the highest command, is to love one another. And he even says, highest command, love God and love your neighbor as yourself. There's this emphasis that Jesus places in his ministry on love. And the love that he models is a self-sacrificial love. And so I think my first point after watching this movie for all of us would be that self-sacrificial love changes the world. You know, the main character of this movie is constantly loving others, even though he doesn't seem to see it that way. He's caring for others even above himself. And now what he's beginning to see as he kind of sees this replay of his life if he had never been born, what he begins to see is the reality of what would have happened if he wouldn't have been there to love these people in those moments, and how their life would have been different, and how it would have been different for the worse, like how they needed him. And he is kind of the hero of the story in a lot of ways, while he's also the broken person of the story. He's also the hero of the story. You get to kind of see how he wanted something else, or at least he had kind of bought into this idea that, like, I want to travel and see the world and have the nice things and do all this, but that what he really had was this opportunity to bring joy and hope and love to other people, people who ultimately would not have experienced it, would have even been exploited by kind of his nemesis, the person who's trying to bring a monopoly to the city and own everything. And he's kind of helping these people who are dealing with the outcome of that individual's greed and oppression on them, and he's actually giving them a way out. And so you're just seeing all the families and all the individuals that he's helped along the way. And the truth of the matter is, when we love one another in a self-sacrificial way, a way that where we love so much that we would literally sacrifice something of our own for someone else, that kind of love is transformative, that it changes the world. And it might just change your world, just the small block you live on, or the neighbor that you have, or the city that you live in. And this character at one point in the movie tells his dad, like, I want to change the world. I want to make a difference. I want to, he has big dreams. And what sometimes we don't realize is that self-sacrificial love can have huge waves. When he comes back, he doesn't even recognize the city. The city has a different name even because he never existed. The city has a whole different layout, a whole different ethos than it had, and not for the better. And it's because of his self-sacrificial love of people, his care for people, that actually transformed these individuals and even their atmosphere and their culture within their town. And so you begin to see that self-sacrificial love really does change the world. And that's what we acknowledge on Christmas with the coming of Jesus. It's like, it's a reminder that God loves us sacrificially, even that God would choose to come and be with us. That is a sacrifice. That's not necessary. It's not needed for God to have to become human, but God chooses to become human on our behalf. And so it is the most godly thing to do, to love someone even as we sacrifice in loving them, even as we make losses, right? Because throughout this movie there's multiple times where the main character is, at least in the standard of economics and life in general, making losses, but ultimately gaining friendships and relationships that are so incredibly meaningful. And I think that's actually where one of the quotes from the movie, let me just make sure I get it right here. At the end, he reads this book, and he reads the cover flap of the book that the angel left. And it says, "Dear George, remember, no man is a failure who has friends. No man is a failure who has friends. Thanks for the wings. Love, Clarence." And so there's this reality that, like, self-sacrificial love also provides for the relationships we need. Like, when we love one another in that deep of a way, we're connected to what's most meaningful. All the money in the world wasn't going to make George, the main character, infinitely happy. And look, money matters, right? Like, you'll be happy for a little bit. But he knows a lot of people in the story, and one person in particular who has a lot of money, who's probably the least joyful person in the entire movie, least happy person in the entire movie. But the relationships he's built with his family and his friends are what ultimately matter the most, and his love for them, and the fact that they feel the love that he has for them. And they've seen the evidence of that love by him being willing to lay down his own life, lay down and sacrifice himself for them. And then I think the second part of the movie that I think is really interesting is that, and again, I just watched it an hour ago, so I'm still kind of reflecting on it, but these are kind of my initial reflections. We have a little bit of a short window here. Perspective often brings hope. I think that would be like my second point of this reflection sermon, whatever you want to call it. What's interesting is being taken on this journey of his life, if had he not been born, he gains some perspective about all of the beauty that is in his life. He gains an opportunity to kind of see, even amid, I don't know about you. Here's maybe the way of saying it. I don't know about you, but I can get tunnel vision on my problems in life. And you can, I really sympathize with George in this movie because he has a problem that he has to solve and he gets tunnel vision on it. And it can be very easy to neglect the other things in your life or to altogether not see the immense value that they are, as opposed to like, if this problem isn't solved, everything's going to fail. And you just kind of can think that way because you only see that one thing. You get that tunnel vision. What I think is a good reminder for us is that perspective often brings hope. As we look back, as we actually take the time to be reflective, to consider the blessings we have, to really consider the journey of life and like the relationships we have, the beauty that is in our world, we often can grab hold of something that might give us hope to get through the next day. You know, George goes to stand on a bridge to commit suicide. Maybe some of you have been in that place of hopelessness and that place of despair. And I'm not going to say, oh, well, just, you know, take a trip down memory lane and it'll all be better. That's not the case. But I do think as we reflect, there is an opportunity for us to see things differently. That's what perspective means, is to take the picture that we've been handed, or that what we've chosen to focus on within the picture, and say, how do I get a higher view of this and maybe see this from a different angle? Or how do I turn this picture a little bit and see it differently? What might I be missing? What might I be focusing on? And what might I be missing? There might be some beauty in this picture that is my life, but I'm choosing only to see the difficult things. And I don't want to say that's easy, because it's not easy to have the discipline to grow in perspective. But I do want to say this. We have a few days between now till the new year, and 2020, for many of us, has been the most challenging year of our life. Maybe it wasn't challenging because you didn't lose your job. Maybe, it wasn't challenging because financially you feel like you're in actually a decent place. It maybe there's all kinds of reasons. It was a fine year. It was a whatever year. But even for those people that I've talked to that actually have kept their jobs, aren't financially struggling, feel like they're in a decent place, they've struggled from a relational side like they've never had to struggle before. They haven't been able to be with friends the way they've been able to be with friends in the past, haven't been able to be with family the way they've been with family. And then on top of that, there are people who have literally lost family members to this virus, who have lost their jobs. There are frontline workers, healthcare workers, who are just stretched to the max. I don't know where you fall on that spectrum of 2020 and what kind of year it was for you, but I think it's my estimation that the majority, if not everyone watching this, has had a tough year. And so how do we gain some perspective as we head into 2021? How do we look back on the picture of what 2020 was and say, okay, I can see this through the lens of dumpster fire. And look, 2020 has been a dumpster fire. We get it. Yes, it has. And I can see my life through that lens, or I could see my life through the beauty of what this year was. There's been beauty in your life this year. You got to look for it sometimes. You got to choose to focus on it sometimes. And even the difficult things this year, and this is the perspective that is often the hardest to gain, even the most difficult stuff you went through this year, you're going to learn and grow from that. That's not to say that you deserve to go through it. That's not to say that it was for your betterment and God sent it your direction. I don't believe that. I'm saying that whatever difficulty, whatever struggle you went through this year, there's something you're going to learn from that God can use in the future. I'm not saying God sent it to you to teach you a lesson, but I am saying the lessons you learned from journeying through that difficult thing, God might use for you to actually self-sacrificially love someone in the future. And so don't miss the lesson of 2020 that it was for your story. Like, what did you learn this year that you couldn't have learned any other way than journeying through it? For many of us, we've got an education this year like we've never had the opportunity to get before. But do we see it that way, or do we just see it as a bunch of crap we had to journey through? This is perspective, and it's hard, but it ultimately can bring hope. Because when we journey through the difficult things, we get the opportunity to grow and learn from that, and then to be hope bringers to those who are going through difficult things. And so this last movie in our Christmas at the Movies series, I think, reminds me of the value of self-sacrificial love. And it also reminds me that when we really pause and try to gain some perspective on our story, on our life, on our year, however far back we want to look, it can often bring us hope, and it can I think also recenter us on what matters most, because we get that kind of tunnel vision taken off and we get to see the broader picture, and in seeing the broader picture we get to see what matters most. And so my prayer for you is that you may see what matters most between now and the new year, and that you may build habits, build reminders into your life that might allow you to focus on that instead of focus on the thing that often gets your tunnel vision. And ultimately that you would grow in love for one another. That self-sacrificial love that truly does change the world. You are changing the world in the way you love others. So may you go and love like Jesus. Amen.
Peace, bring it all to peace. The storm surrounding me, let it break. At your name, still call the sea to still, the rage in me to still every wave. At your name, Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. Breathe, call these bones to live, call these lungs to sing once again. I will praise Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. Your name storm surrounding me, let it break. I